back to another week of Bowling in the Years. Last week we did 1998, and this week we are doing
2000.
the year
Millennium
2000.
Year. Your
Okay.
suggestion.
Yes, it was a good year. So there are a lot of things that
2000 I suppose was a bit like
yeah,
1998.
kind of a packed year.
Yeah, 2000 was a very packed year again.
And would you be thinking about maybe the Bowl Fada given the time of year?
Yeah, I suppose we couldn't think of anything else this weekend, only the Bowl Fada because of the COVID-19 and it being cancelled, and I suppose that's a big shock to the system for the bowlers because the year kind of starts with the Bowl Fada, and it kind of, once that comes up, it kind of sets things in motion. And the big competition there is the Joe McVeigh Cup, and Red Joe McVeigh was a very famous bowler from Armagh, and he set a famous record on the old Napa Road, which is the Cathedral Road, but it starts at Napa Angles and coming in towards Armagh City. And interestingly, in 2000, the Napa Road, they played scores on the Napa Road for the first time for a long time. But the Bowl Fada is played down at Cady nowadays. I think it started. There was a kind of a competition in Armagh City before that, and I remember going there with Christy Santry and Bill Daly. I don't exactly remember what year, but it kind of got the thing going again, maybe in the early 1980s. So the Bowl Fada that year was won by James Buckley, and it was interesting that he won it because for a number of reasons, I suppose. Because firstly, the week before he played against Bill Daly in the Munster Senior Championship in a place called Lacaro. And Lacaro's in County Waterford, and I was just thinking that maybe not too many senior championship scores have been played in County Waterford. It actually might have been the only one, and as it happened, Bill Daly beat him, and then he went to Armagh to play Michael Toll, famous Michael Toll, in the Joe McVeigh Cup at Bowl Fada, and that was a super competition, and came to a last shot, and Toll beat the line, and he wasn't expected to beat the line at the last bowl, so they were giving, I think, 4-1 against Buckley beating the shot, but he beat it, and so obviously a big win for James Buckley. But also, I suppose what's interesting, if you look at the records, he had an incredible record against Michael Toll. He was, I would say, without a doubt, he was the most successful Cork player against Michael Toll, James Buckley. So it was a big win for him after losing in the championship and then coming back to win in Bowl Fada. So yes, I suppose everybody's sort of thinking about that this weekend. Yeah, hopefully in 2021 it will be bigger and better than ever.
And I suppose another thing, 2000, probably the Euros. Yeah,
the European Championships were in Meldorf. Which is ironic because the European Championships in Meldorf were cancelled this year. And you were in Meldorf, interestingly, because I went to view the venues, and you were tiny, small baby, but we brought you, and Kieran O'Gorman came there as well, and we looked at the venues for Meldorf, and I suppose again, the thing is, I mentioned this in our very first one in 1988, Dan O'Halloran winning the European Championships and the men's gold, and again we didn't win it in 2000. It came unbelievably close, and the big player was Philip O'Donoghue. He won a silver medal in the road, and he also won a silver medal in the Dutch Moors. And when you look at 2000, he was one of the big players of 2000, and I'll talk a little bit more about him maybe in a little while. But the other things I suppose that were important about the games in Meldorf were that Louise Daly from Clonakilty, she became the first girl to win the under-18 gold medal. It was the first time the gold medal was played for the under-18, and she won it. And Katrina O'Farrell won 2 silver medals, and astoundingly David Murphy, who was only a young lad at the time. He won the gold medal in the Moors under 18, but he also won a silver medal at the lofting, the German lofting. And very, 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 very few Irish players have ever won medals in the German lofting, so that was a big achievement for him that year. I think they were the main stick-out points from the European Championships from an Irish point of view.
So there would have been a lot of young players.
Yeah, actually, Mark Ude Ludicus won the gold medal in the road, and he played in the King of the Roads.
Oh.
Yeah, Dutch player who beat Philip O'Donovan. Yeah.
And speaking of the King of the Roads and indeed the Queen of the Roads, I think last week you mentioned that Greta won the Queen of the Roads in this year.
She did. She famously won the Queen of the Roads, and that was a big win for her, because the person she was playing in the final was none less than Katrina O'Farrell. I mentioned her last week, contesting 8 finals, so she was a bit of a Queen of the Road specialist. But that year, Greta got away smartly. So she was well underway, I suppose, before Katrina O'Farrell settled, and she raised the ball of odds with a big shot from the second boards out onto the short straight, and then she rose a second ball of odds on the long straight. But Katrina O'Farrell then put in an unbelievable finish. She came at her and at her and at her and at her, and she brought it down to a last shot. And it looked a bit like the 98 one, as we were talking about, but Katrina O'Farrell threw a huge last shot, but it just missed the line. And Greta came back and beat the line. But the thing, I suppose, that I remember, and I suppose everybody remembers about that day, was when Greta won, she kissed the road. So that just, I suppose, showed how much the win meant to her. So it was a big win. Like she beat the Katrina O'Farrell, who was the up and coming champion, and as I said, Katrina O'Farrell had done very, very well in the European Championships as well. So that was a big win for her.
So Greta would be one of your memorable players again that year. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, well, I mentioned Philip O'Donovan as well in the Europeans, and I suppose it's important that we mention him because he won the Munster Senior Championship, and that was a big win because that was his first time winning it, and he beat Bill Daly, which was a big achievement for him, and they played on a very, very historic road in Waterfall in the Munster final. And that's the home road of Mick Barry. This is where he grew up and did all his bowling, and it's also the home road of a very, very famous player called Liam O'Keefe, who won the very first senior champion in 1954. And it's a historic road. I mean, there's been bowling there for forever and ever, and it's one of the roads that features in the Atlas of Cork City. And some of the historic points on the road, like the Glass Shandies, places on that road, are known to generations of bowlers over the last couple of 100 years. So it was nice, I suppose, for Philip O'Donovan to win it there, and it came to a last shot as well. And it was very similar to the Queen of the Roads final in the sense that Bill Daly, I think Bill Daly just missed the line as well, and then Philip O'Donovan beat it. So that was a big one as well that year. And
I know you wanted to talk about Wexford in this video.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to talk about Wexford because it's famous because only one Wexford player ever won an All-Ireland title, and that was Kevin Coleman, and he won the Junior C, and he won it in Drogheda that year against a very, very famous bowler, one of the greats. And you know, like, this is a player who has an astonishing record called Patrick Mallon from Armagh. So I mean, he didn't beat any old player, he beat one of the tops in Pat Mallon. So I suppose if you're at a pub quiz and somebody puts in the question, can you name the only Wexford player to win a bowling All-Ireland, Kevin Coleman is your man. Interestingly, although he didn't make it to those All-Irelands, David Murphy was beginning to appear on the scene as well in the novice championships, because I know he'd done all this amazing bowling in Meldorf, but for some reason he was in the novice championships in Cork, but he didn't win it, but he got to the final. And it was at the time, actually, we're talking about underage players, there were 2000 is the start of two phenomenal runs at underage, and they were Emma Fitzpatrick and Thomas Buckley. They both won their first Munster championships in 2000. Emma Fitzpatrick won the under 12 and Thomas Buckley won the under 12. They're both the under 12 championships. And every year from then until 2007, except for one, in 2004, Emma Fitzpatrick won the championship. She won 2 under 12s, 2 under 14s, an under 16, and an under 18, and 2 under 18s. So that was an amazing achievement. And Thomas Buckley won the under 12s, under 14s, under 16s, and under 18s. And he won the All Irelands in the first 6, but he didn't ever win an under 18 All Ireland, which was a shame for him, really, because he really was a unique character. But at the time, maybe people didn't take much notice about who beat him in the second of those under 18 All Irelands. But it was a guy called Thomas Meckle, turned out to be one of the greatest players, and he is one of the greatest players. Yeah, so there was that. Yeah.
Was there anything else that kind of stood out for you in 2000s?
Yeah, I suppose the other things, just kind of smaller things maybe in some ways, but bigger things. Patrick Moynihan won the Junior B championship in 2000, and he had won the Junior C in 1999, and he won the Junior A in 2001, so that was the middle of his run. And also in Armagh, the All Irelands that year, Conor and Adrian Lappin both won All Irelands, two members of the same family, brothers. And again, I suppose you talk about bowling families. The Lappins are a very, very, very famous bowling family. So that's one of the things that stands out for me. And Johnny Murphy, I think that was his third under 18 Munster title, which was a huge achievement as well in that year. I think they're the main things that I can remember.
Another packed year like last week.
Yeah, it was incredible. You know, all the different things that happened. You know, so yeah, it was. And I suppose, like we mentioned, the Queen of the Roads at the start. I mean, Bill Daly won his 5th King of the Roads that year, and he beat Eamon Bowen. And Eamon Bowen was an amazing player. He was, I suppose, one of the greatest players never to win an All-Ireland. He played Bill Daly in 2 Munster finals, and he lost both of them. He played in that King of the Roads final, and he didn't win it. So, you know, like on the records, his name isn't actually on any of the, you know, the great achievements. But super bowler, an extremely talented guy. He could do anything with a bowl, and he could also play with both hands. He could play with his right or his left hand. His right hand was his strong hand, but sometimes he would play against weaker players with his left hand. Yeah, so that was he was still on the go in 2000. And it's interesting, you know, to think about it, of all the different players and the roads and things that have happened that year. But of course, I was very busy with 3 small children then.
Well, 1 small child and 2 newborns.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Seamus, for joining us for another week of Bowling in the Ears. And did you have any idea what you might want to do next week?
I have no idea. We put out an invitation last week for someone to nominate a year, but we didn't get any nominations yet.
But we're opening that to you this week. We're opening that to you, and we'll see what suggestions we get from the audience.